StarFox for the Super Nintendo isn't just the game that brought true 3D polygonal graphics to mainstream consoles, it's also the beginning of one of Nintendo's most iconic franchises. In the beginning, all video games were two-dimensional, but right from the start, clever programmers found ways to simulate a 3D environment. Many games tried a third-person isometric viewpoint, and there were even some that placed the player within a first-person maze. But in reality, the third dimension as it's presented here is just an illusion. The objects in these games are flat graphics that use artistic shading techniques to make them appear 3D. They don't have real weight to them, nor can they be freely rotated. Home video game consoles just didn't have that kind of computing power. But in the late 1980s, the technology finally arrived. Atari released Hard Drivin' to the arcades in 1989. This racing simulator looks pretty rough by modern standards, but 3D first-person gameplay like this was truly novel for the time, and the Crash replay videos were surprisingly funny. In 1992, id Software blew gamers away with Wolfenstein 3D. Considering how cutting-edge that game felt for the time, you may be surprised to learn that Argonaut Software, the UK-based company that would ultimately make StarFox possible, published a fully 3D space fighting game all the way back in 1986. Starglider was designed by Jez San for the Amiga and Atari ST computers. When San released Starglider, Argonaut Software was essentially a one-man show. Jez San had founded the company as a teenager to make himself look more official when attempting to land consulting jobs with larger tech companies. Starglider sold extremely well for a computer game and made so much money for San that he was able to hire a staff and make Argonaut into a real development studio. One of the people San was able to hire was a young programmer named Dylan Cuthbert. His first job would be to develop 3D gameplay on Nintendo's Game Boy, which sounds crazy considering the technical limitations of that primitive handheld. To make things even more difficult, Argonaut had no relationship with Nintendo, so he would have to do it without an official development kit. But Cuthbert was undeterred. With the help of a small team, they disassembled the Game Boy and reverse engineered a dummy development kit, which they used to create a 3D tech demo. News of this achievement soon reached the late Gunpei Yokoi, the leader of Nintendo's R&D 1 division and the man known as the father of the Game Boy. He was so impressed that Argonaut was given a contract to work with Nintendo, and the tech demo they created would become X, a 3D space fighting game that was only released in Japan. For their next project, Argonaut had been working on a game like Starglider for the 8-bit NES. But even when they ported it over to a prototype of Nintendo's new 16-bit Super NES, the game still ran poorly. Argonaut suggested that Nintendo should beef up the power of their new system, but the technical specifications were already locked in, and Nintendo was unwilling to change them. Luckily, the Super Nintendo used a cartridge-based system, so it was possible for more powerful chips to be built into the games themselves. A team of engineers from Argonaut, including Rob McCauley, James Hakewill, and Ben Cheese, yes, that is his real name, designed the Super FX chip. This chip gives the Super Nintendo a lot more power, So much more that developers often commented that the Super Nintendo was just a box for the Super FX chip. The chip was made with 3D graphics in mind and was used in other games like Stunt Race FX, but it was so powerful that Nintendo even used it in Yoshi's Island, a game that is almost entirely 2D. Unfortunately, the chip made the cartridges much more expensive to produce, so it wasn't used in very many games. This is also one of the reasons why StarFox 2 was cancelled after the game was fully completed. For StarFox, Argonaut Software worked closely with the designers from Nintendo, including the legendary Shigeru Miyamoto. Famously, it was Miyamoto who had the idea to include tunnels and archways which help make the player feel more immersed in the game. Miyamoto and a team of artists from Nintendo created the anthropomorphic characters of Fox McCloud, General Pepper, Slippy Toad, Peppy Hare, and Falco Lombardi. These heroes fight to protect the Lilat system from the evil scientist Andross, who is known as Andorf in Japan. The whole thing has a bit of a Bucky O'Hare kind of vibe, and while the developers from Argonaut were not initially excited about adding animal characters to the game, they ended up being one of the most memorable parts of StarFox and its legacy as a series. The music was composed by Hajime Hirasawa, who left Nintendo after working on the game to form his own company. The sound effects were created by the great Mario and Zelda composer Koji Kondo, so you know Nintendo really put their best team on this project. So of course StarFox was a massive hit when it released in 1993. Just the idea of 3D graphics on the Super Nintendo was mind-blowing, and critics raved about the groundbreaking use of 3D polygons. Nintendo backed the game up with an aggressive marketing campaign. There were television ads, a multi-part comic in Nintendo Power magazine. They even held an enormous tournament at about 2,000 locations in the United States, where the highest scoring players at each location were entered into a drawing for $15,000, which would be over $30,000 today. In the end, it was all worth it for Nintendo, as the game sold over 4 million copies by 1998 and was a huge worldwide success. Globally, the game wasn't always called StarFox. There were concerns that the name could be confused with a German company called StarVox, so the game was released as Star Wing in some European countries. In modern times, you may think the early 3D graphics look bad, or you may think they look like the future of automobiles. But in any case, the gameplay is surprisingly fun. Floating through the Lilat system as you blast polygons with your animal buddies is an overall pleasant experience, and with 3 totally different paths to choose from, there is a ton of replayability. When IGN released their list of the top 100 Super Nintendo games of all time, they ranked StarFox at number 9. If you'd like to play StarFox on a modern platform, it is one of the games included on the SNES Classic Mini and with the Switch's online service. Modern players that attempt this game will still have to deal with all of the challenges retro games are notorious for. There are tons of hostile enemies out there in space, and the bosses are even more challenging. You only get a few extra lives, and you'll have to earn your continues, so make one too many mistakes, and it'll be game over. But what if I told you the best way to beat every stage with a 100% score? What if I showed you how to find every secret, like the black hole, the great whale, and the giant slot machine? And what if I told you the best way to defeat every boss? Even Andros himself? Well, on today's episode of You Can Beat Video Games, we'll learn all of that and more. If you're new to the channel, we're doing deep dives on retro video games and giving you the professional strategies that can be used by the casual gamer. Please make sure to subscribe and check out youcanbeatvideogames.com for episode lists, news, and official You Can Beat Video Games merchandise. And please join our Patreon for access to an exclusive Discord community and a chance to vote on future episodes. Let's get started. All right. StarFox. As the game loads up, it seems that once again, in another dimension, another time and space, a parallel universe is falling on its face. This opening cutscene is clearly designed to pay homage to the opening from Star Wars, and considering how popular Star Wars was and is, it was probably a good idea for Miyamoto and company to add the animal characters to this game to make it feel distinct from the popular sci-fi properties of the time. When we press start here, we're going to be given the option of which control scheme to use. If you're new to the game, you may like Control C or Control D, in which up will make your ship fly up, and down will make your ship fly down. I've been playing this game for a long time and I'm very comfortable with Control A, so that's what I'm going to use, but just pick what feels best to you. If you'd like a bit of practice, the training mode is a great place to get acquainted with the controls, but we have a lot to cover here, so we're going to jump right into the game. Of the 3 paths you can pick from on the map, the one in the middle is the easiest, so that's the one we're going to do first. Before every mission, we get a briefing from General Pepper. This time he tells us that it's our last resort to counterattack Venom, but that's just what we're going to have to do. The General says good luck, and there's more voice acting here as our R-Wing fighters take off, but most of the dialogue in this game is just sound effects with a text translation at the bottom. So while it's clear that voice acting can be done from a technical point of view, this was probably a lot easier than recording all of the dialogue in multiple languages. If you press select while you're down here near the planet surface, you can switch between 2 different viewpoints, but you cannot go into first-person mode until we get into outer space. Here at the beginning of this stage, you want to make sure to fly under all of these archways. If you do, it will make a twin blaster power-up appear underneath the large one. The twin blasters will double your firepower, and the effect will last until you lose a life or sustain wing damage, so be careful not to get the wing of your ship clipped by any enemies or obstacles. Fly down low here to shoot at this robo-dog, and make sure to hit it multiple times so that it actually explodes. If you're trying to get a 100% score at the end of the stage, you don't have to kill all of the enemies, but you do have to kill certain ones, and that robo-dog is one of them. There's a mad snail that you can take out near the middle of this stage that spawns a Nova Bomb when defeated, so make sure to collect that. And watch out for the pillars in this area that will deal serious damage to your ship if you hit them. Near this red monolith, if you hold R or L and tilt sideways, you can fly through the narrow gap at the edge where you'll find another Nova Bomb. You can only hold 5 Nova Bombs at one time, so we can't pick up another one until we use one of the ones that we have. Stay low and in the middle of the screen and do a boost to get past those falling pillars. At this point, one of your teammates will be chased by an enemy. Make sure to kill that enemy quickly or your teammate will take damage. The enemies that chase your teammates are almost always ones that are included in the 100% score, and you really want to keep your teammates alive if getting 100% is something that you're interested in. Now it's time for the first boss, the Attack Carrier. Fly down a bit lower so you don't get bumped into it as it arrives from the top of the screen, and you want to take aim at this door on the right side. Start shooting early so that you'll hit it as soon as it opens. Now you want to wait for the 2 doors on the left to open, and as soon as they do, drop a Nova Bomb, which will immediately clear them. Now we're going to mash L or R as we shoot at this thing so that we'll continuously do barrel rolls. If you're barrel rolling whenever a projectile hits you, you'll fend it off and you won't take damage at all. And that's it. We've completed stage 1. Now we'll get to see how we scored. The game will take the number of required enemies that we killed and divide it by the number that actually spawned. It will take that percentage and add a 5% bonus for each one of our squad mates that's still alive. It doesn't matter how much health they have left, you'll get the full 5% regardless. So you'll get a total of a 15% bonus if your squad is completely intact. That means you only need 85% to get credit for a full 100. Alright, hopefully you got all of that because it's time for stage 2, the Asteroid Belt. We're not actually going to worry about getting a 100% score right now because there's a warp zone here in the Asteroid Belt known as the Black Hole. We are going to be coming back here later so I can show a full 100% run on this stage, but for the first time through, I want to show the Black Hole. To get the Black Hole, it doesn't matter too much what we do here in the beginning of the stage, so just take out whichever enemies are in your way, and try not to fly into any asteroids. Because we're in outer space and we're not near the surface of a planet, the first-person view is available, and I recommend using this view whenever possible because it makes it a lot easier to aim. In this area with the densely packed asteroids, you'll notice that your lasers can destroy the orange asteroids, but you won't be able to penetrate the silver ones, so you'll just want to fly around those. If you fly through the center of this triangular formation of asteroids, a twin blaster power-up will appear. And there's a second level to the twin blasters, the plasma blasters, which are more powerful. And this is what we were looking for. Whenever you see these lines of asteroids with an orange asteroid in the middle, you want to wait until the very last second to shoot that middle asteroid. Do that on all 3 of them, and this laughing asteroid will appear. Shoot the laughing asteroid and the black hole will spawn. Fly into it, and you'll be taken to the map. Like I said before, the black hole is essentially a warp zone. You can die in here, there are some enemies and obstacles that you can collide with, but it's not a very difficult area to navigate.
Good luck.
The first thing you want to do when you get into the black hole is press select twice so that you can switch to first person view. There are a few things you want to be on the lookout for here, and the first of which is this extra life. Shoot the 3 purple diamonds arranged in a triangular formation 3 times to make a ship appear between them, and then fly into it to collect the 1-up. Then shoot this dartboard to make a twin blaster spawn within it. If you fly into this first supply ring that you see, you will exit the black hole, and you'll be taken to Sector Y, which is part of Path 2. If you finish Sector Y, you will continue on to Path 2's Venom. But this is not the only place you can get to from the black hole. So if you just don't fly into this supply ring, just skip by it, you're going to find more stuff, and eventually you'll find another supply ring. Those yellow rings that are just free floating through here are okay to go through, but after you collect the Nova Bomb within the dartboard, if you fly through this supply ring, that's going to take you down to Path 3 into Sector Z. Path 3 is the most difficult of the 3 paths, and you'll have to go from here through Macbeth to get to Path 3's Venom. There is one more place that we can get to from the black hole. So if we don't go into the second supply ring and look for another dartboard, so watch out for the debris that's floating through here. There's that dartboard, which contains another Nova Bomb. We already have the maximum number of those, so we can't pick it up. But here, if we take this third supply ring, that's going to take us on to Venom as part of Path 1. This is by far the fastest way to go if you just want to beat the game, but keep in mind you'll only see bosses that you actually defeated when you get the game's ending. So what happens if you don't go through that third supply ring? Well, at that point, the black hole will loop around back to the beginning, and the next supply ring that you see will be the first one. So you'll start getting the same stuff over again. If you need to get a second level of twin blasters, you may want to fly through here twice, and you can also replenish your bombs this way, but you'll see when we go through this ring, this is going to take us to Sector Y. So there are only 3 different locations that the black hole can take you to.
Good luck.
And that's really all that you need to know about the black hole. So let's go back to Path 1's asteroid belt, and this time we will completely complete it with a 100% score.
Good luck.
Getting 100% here in the asteroid belt is no simple feat. There are a ton of enemies that count towards your score here, including these space vermins that appear at the very beginning, so make sure to clear all of them. These orange space kites do not count towards your 100% score, but that centipede counts as multiple enemies, so make sure that you clear all the pieces that break off of it. Over on the left we see a spinner, and that's another enemy that counts towards our 100% score. Spinners usually appear in pairs, and they only pop up a couple times before they're gone forever, so make sure to shoot them quickly whenever you see them. If you're ever unsure which enemies do and do not count towards the 100%, I did add a live counter over to the graphics package on the left side of the screen, so just look for the number in the upper right corner, and that will tick up each time I kill one of the enemies that I've identified as counting towards the score. There are a couple of spots in the areas with the densely packed asteroids where it seems like enemies that count towards your score may be hiding behind some of the asteroids. So in those areas, if you have extra Nova bombs, you might want to toss a few out. You may find that you get a better score that way. These purple enemies are called Cat's Rocks, and I like to mash L or R whenever shooting at them because they release lines of projectiles, and by doing barrel rolls you can avoid them. Another thing that I'm going to avoid here is the silver supply ring. This is very risky to do because the silver supply ring not only will restore your health, but it also creates a checkpoint, so if you die, you'll come back to where the supply ring was. The reason that I skipped it is because if you skip the silver supply ring, it will make this Phoenix appear towards the end of the stage. The Phoenix releases some yellow energy rings for you, so I'm not sure that it's worth the risk, but it is a fun trick. And that brings us to the boss, the Rock Crusher. As soon as you see those pods on the left start flashing, launch a Nova Bomb at them, and if you press the bomb button a second time, you can detonate it quickly. Do the same thing on the other side, and then shoot out the center while rapidly tapping L or R to barrel roll, and this thing will not last long. With the boss out of the way, it'll be time to tally up our score. When you earn a total score of 10,000, 30,000, and 50,000 points, you'll earn a continue. This is cumulative, so if you were unable to make 100% in the first stage, your score from stage 2 will be added on, so you'll probably have one continue by the time you get this far. Next up is the Space Armada. This one is interesting because it's mostly an outer space type stage, but there are a few small interior segments where you'll have to switch to third-person view. As we drop out of hyperspace, if your blasters are not fully powered up, you want to look for a purple enemy that will appear on the left. It's this guy right here. Whenever you kill him, if you don't already have fully powered up blasters, he will spawn a twin blaster item for you. Another thing that you're going to want to look for is an extra life. Shoot these purple diamonds 3 times to make a ship appear between them, and then fly into it to collect the extra life. There are not a lot of extra lives in this game, so you don't want to miss that one. Use your retro rockets to slow down if you need to. The larger ships here are constantly shooting at you, but if you just keep tapping L or R to do barrel rolls, you'll be able to avoid most of their fire. Whenever you see this boxy ship in the distance, it's time to go inside. Fly right towards the back of the ship to enter, and don't fly around it or you'll have to repeat the previous section. Once you get inside, you just want to not move. You will have to tap L or R to tilt your ship at one point, but just stay right here in the middle, shoot through the dartboard, and you'll be able to easily cruise through this first ship. We're going to have to go inside another one of these ships later on in the stage, and that's going to be a bit more difficult. But for now, switch back to the first-person view, and you'll notice that we picked up a shield power-up while we were inside, which will prevent the next few hits from damaging us. Out here, we'll find a silver supply ring, which can restore some of our health and will create a checkpoint, just in case we lose a life and die. And we're just going to keep flying past the capital ships in this area, shoot at the enemies for our score, and we are going to come across another one of those large ships that we need to go inside. This time we will have to move around a bit. Shoot the doors near the beginning to make them move out of the way, stay in the beginning near the first few obstacles, but then drop down whenever you see that yellow and black caution bar. That should get you underneath. Shoot at the doors, watch your wing as you fly to the left to grab the Nova Bomb, and make sure to take out the enemies near the end. They do count towards your score. There are not a whole lot of enemies that count towards a 100% score here in the Space Armada, so we cannot afford to miss very many if we want to get 100%. Back outside, we're going to switch back to our first-person perspective, and we do want to hit those Cat's Rock enemies. They count towards our score, but watch out for the plasma bolts that they shoot at us. Those can deal a ton of damage, so you'll want to be barrel rolling as you fight them. Here we'll find another supply ring, which will give us back some more health and set up another checkpoint, and that will give us a little bit of safety if something bad were to happen. The large octagon-shaped ship is our final destination here in the Space Armada. Head right towards the back of it, and it'll be time to go in once more. This will be the most challenging of the 3 interior segments, so use your retro rockets if you need to slow down. Start at the top of the screen, but once you see the obstacles start appearing up there, fly down to the bottom, and then try to find your way to the middle. That should get you around most of the obstacles, then fly down to the bottom, shoot at the second door to make it go up, and then head to the top for the 4th door, which will reveal some enemies behind it. Those enemies do count towards your 100% score, so make sure to clear them, and then shoot out all the doors in your way as you make your way to the boss. This boss is called the Atomic Base, and we need to remove the 3 pods that attach it to the wall before the vulnerable part in the center will open. As soon as we get in here, hold L and fly hard to the left while shooting. That should allow you to remove the first pod. As soon as you remove the first pod, you're going to hit your retro rockets, keep shooting, and take out the next 2 pods. Then fly over to the open center and keep barrel rolling while shooting it until it explodes. It's really that easy. As Fox checks in with his wingmates, we'll check again to see if we got a 100% score. At this point, we should be able to earn our second continue if we've done all 3 stages perfectly. Something that you should know about the 100% score system is if you lose a life and respawn in the same stage, the game will remember how many enemies you hit versus how many you missed. So if you did really poorly on your first life, you may not be able to do well enough to get 100%, even if you do perfectly on your second life. Although it also works the other way. If you did really well on your first life, you would not have to do quite so well on your second. And that brings us to stage 4, the Meteor Base. The game considers this a planetary level, so you will not be able to switch to the first-person view. You also move pretty quickly through here, so you may need to use your retro rockets occasionally to slow down. There's a bunch of good items to pick up in this section, so if you head over to the left, you can grab a Nova Bomb, and then over on the right side here, you'll be able to pick up a Twin Blaster. I used a bomb there because there's a mad shooter in that area that counts towards your 100% score, and it's difficult to collect all the items and hit that guy without using a bomb. The enemies that are on the ground here are the Hover Tank 2s, as well as the taller enemy stalkers. Both of those enemy types are important to kill for your 100% score. Over on the right side, we can get an extra life, shoot the purple diamonds 3 times to make it appear, and use your retro rockets if you need more time to collect it. Look for the mad shooters in this area. They're the enemies that are attached to the ground and shoot plasma balls at you. Those guys are all worth points towards your 100% score. Coming up is a large set of doors underneath an archway. We want to shoot the doors open at the last second so that they don't close on us, and inside we'll find a supply ring, which will restore some health and also create a checkpoint. This large enemy is called a ground ship. It has a good bit of health, so you'll need to shoot it quite a few times. Over here, you want to take the doors on the left, shoot them at the last moment to reveal a Nova Bomb. We'll be happy to have that later. We'll protect Falco from an enemy. He doesn't seem very grateful, but we do want to make sure he stays alive. And now it's time to face the boss, the Dancing Insector. You want to hold R and get up in the right corner so that you can turn sideways and shoot at the legs until they all lift up. At this point, it will try to fly at you, and you want to get down near the bottom of the screen so that it'll fly over your head. Once it's back on the ground, hold R again and keep focusing your shots on the legs. This time when you're shooting the legs, they'll eventually all lift up and turn orange. Now the legs are vulnerable. Keep shooting at them, and if you deal enough damage to the legs, they'll start to disintegrate and fall off. You can barrel roll to avoid the plasma balls it shoots in this phase, but once it starts shooting actual fireballs, do not rely on your barrel rolls to avoid those. You need to actually move to the side to avoid them. Eventually you'll get rid of all the legs and you just need to focus your firepower on the core that remains. And that's it. We've defeated the Dancing Insector. From here, we'll tally up our score and then we'll be on to our final destination, the planet Venom. Venom is a two-part stage, so we'll need to take on enemies outside of Venom, and then we'll fly down to the planet to finish the job. We're going to be attacking Venom head-on, so there will be a lot of defenses that we'll need to overcome before we can reach Andros. For 100% scores, the first and second part of Venom are considered separate stages entirely, and you will get a separate score for each one. Stage 5 is also our last opportunity to earn another continue, so make sure to kill as many required enemies as you can. As we get closer to Venom, homing missiles are launched up from the planet's surface. Make sure to shoot these, because many of them do count towards your 100% score. The large crossfighter that appears here also counts, and then it breaks into 4 pieces. And these silent fighters that seem to be transparent are another enemy type that you'll need to kill for 100%. You'll get credit for destroying the super missiles that split into smaller missiles, even if they explode on their own, and you'll want to fly through this ring of junk to make 2 Nova bombs spawn, so don't miss those. Shortly after that, you'll see the purple ship that will spawn a twin blaster power-up, assuming your blasters are not already at full power. And then there's more of those homing missiles coming up from the planet's surface. There's a supply ring here that you can fly through to restore some health or make a checkpoint, but just like in the asteroid belt, if you skip the supply ring, the Silver Phoenix will spawn towards the end of the stage. Just like before, it is very risky to skip the checkpoint, because if you die, you'll have to go all the way back to the beginning of the stage, but if you want to make the Silver Phoenix appear, that's what you'll have to do. And that brings us to the boss, the Fantron. As soon as the Fantron becomes vulnerable, it'll start moving left and right while shooting at you, so keep doing barrel rolls and move with it until it starts to spin around. At that point, it will split into 3 parts. Only one of the 3 parts will be vulnerable, and it's usually the one on the right or the one in the middle. Figure out which one takes damage, keep shooting it until it retreats down to the planet's surface. And that's it. We're on to the final stage. Of course, we managed to get 100% again, and with a perfect score up to this point, we earned our 3rd continue. Down here on the planet's surface, the only enemies that count towards 100% are the mad shooters and the battle butterflies, so don't drive yourself nuts trying to shoot all of the red pillars or any of the other enemies you encounter. We'll take out a battle butterfly here to help out our pal Slippy, and up ahead there's going to be some walls with large arrows on them. So whenever we see those, you want to be flying past them on the side of the arrow that is flat. You can shoot them to change the orientation of the arrow, but you do not want to be near the point of the arrow. That will make the wall turn into you. So I like to stay over here on the right side, shoot the walls when necessary, and just make sure you're always on the flat side of the arrow as you pass by. Over here, we'll protect Peppy this time, and we want to look for some mad shooters. You can actually shoot them before they appear on screen if you're shooting in the right place. And you want to make sure to get both of them because all of these enemies in this short section count towards our 100% score, and you can only miss 2 of them and still make 85%, assuming you don't lose any lives. In this area with the red pillars, we're going to hold L or R to tilt our ship, and that will make it easier to navigate around this area. Keep in mind that whenever you're holding R, you will be able to move faster to the right, but you'll move a lot slower to the left, and whenever you're holding L, you'll move more quickly to the left, but you'll move slower to the right, so it does matter which button you're holding. Hold L or R again to fly past the red pillars. If your blasters are fully powered up, you may be able to shoot through some of them, but it's safer to avoid them. The boss is a rematch with the Fantron, and it's up to its old tricks again. It splits into 3 parts. Only one of them will be vulnerable, and it's usually the one on the right or the one in the middle. But this time, it's going to transform into this monstrosity. So you want to take aim at the flashing blue eye on the top, and you'll want to use a few Nova bombs once it starts taking damage. We don't really need to save any bombs for the final boss. We'll be able to find one before we get there, so don't worry about saving any if you have them. Eventually, it's going to go all the way to the back of the screen and do this big jump attack, at which point you just want to fly hard to the left to avoid it. Whenever it turns around again at the back of the screen, it will split into 3 parts. Only one of them will be vulnerable, but you should be able to quickly push it back into a single Fantron. And from there, it should not take too much more to finish it off. With the Fantron defeated, there's only one thing left to do. The game will take you on autopilot for a moment as your R-Wing fighter flies up inside this structure, and you'll regain control when you get inside. At first, you want to not touch the controls at all, and just allow yourself to stay where you are until you fly past the 2 bars. Then you want to slow down with your retro rockets, hold R, and carefully navigate past these doors. There's a twin blaster for you to pick up near the end. And once you go through this area, it's time to face Andross. Hold L and fly to the upper right corner. You're going to take aim at the inner part of the right eye, and you want to rapidly shoot it until it explodes. Then you can move over to the left side if you have any time. Don't worry when Andross is sucking the tiles in, you won't take any damage at that point. Now we're going to go to the upper right corner again. As soon as the eye on the left starts flashing, you want to fly over to the left and shoot at it. That will make Andross shoot the tiles to the right at first and should make things a bit easier. When the cube appears, you want to shoot it rapidly with your guns, and when it gets close to the screen, hit it with a Nova bomb to finish it off. If you don't deal enough damage to the cube, you'll have to fight the face again, so make sure to shoot it rapidly, and don't forget to use your bomb. And that's it! We've done it! We've beaten StarFox on Path 1. All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. After Fox and his squadron fly away from the wreckage of Andross's base on Venom, they regroup in formation above the planet's atmosphere. Before we radio General Pepper to let him know that the mission was a success, I think we have time to do a few celebratory victory laps around the planet. And we'll also have time to take a look at our final score. Of course, we know we had 100% in the first 5 stages, but it's not until now that we'll be able to confirm that we got 100% in Stage 6. Beyond Earning continues, getting 100% on all 6 stages is just something to do for fun or for a personal achievement, and it does not change the ending nor does it unlock anything. But it is very satisfying to see average score 100%. Alright, let's get out of here.
Come in, Cornelia.
This is Corneria. Pepper speaking. Congratulations on a job well done.
Roger. I'm heading back to Corneria.
After our R-Wing fighters blast off into the distance, we'll be treated to data on all of the bosses we defeated. Keep in mind that you will only see bosses that you actually cleared. If you use the black hole to skip over some of the stages, the bosses of the stages you skipped will not appear here. Each boss does a little dance before shrinking into the upper right corner so that its name and statistics can appear. As a kid, I really appreciated endings like this because without access to the internet, it was not always easy to find out what the names of the bosses were. Beyond what you could learn in Nintendo Power Magazine, there was not always a great source for that information. So finding out that this thing is called the Dancing Insector and not the Purple Mantis Bot or whatever I would want to call it as a child was pretty cool. This Rogues Gallery reveal of all the bosses does make up the bulk of the ending, but after the last boss is shown, there will be some credits to roll. But I'm not ready to roll the credits just yet. We are far from finished with StarFox. There are still 2 other paths that we can take, and the stages within those paths are completely different. All 3 paths do start with Corneria, but even that is slightly different on the second path, and very different for the third path. There's even a different boss. So while it seems like the Lilat system is safe for now, I'll sleep a lot better tonight once we've completed all 3 paths. Before we move on though, I do want to show one more trick, and you can do this on the normal ending for any of the paths, but if you wait here where it says the end for about 10 minutes, it will eventually start playing this strange tune. This is the only place in the game where you'll hear it, so it's kind of an audio Easter egg. And the only thing you need to do to hear it is just be patient at the end. It'll play through a few times before it's done, and as it finishes, we'll go back to the title screen and move on to the next path. I'm going to choose Control Type A, but pick whichever one you're most comfortable with. And Path 2 is the one over here on the left. We'll get our briefing from General Pepper, and something that I never picked up on as a kid was that General Pepper is definitely a reference to Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band from the Beatles. He's even wearing a uniform that matches their outfits from the album cover. So I guess the joke is that Sergeant Pepper got a promotion at some point and now he's a general. And with that, our R-Wing fighters will take off from the base and it will be time to protect Corneria again. At first you might think that this stage is exactly the same as the one in Path 1, but you'll figure out quite quickly that it's a good bit different. The background looks the same, the enemies look similar, but there's a lot more enemies to fight, and the challenges are a bit more difficult. One thing that's the same for all of the different versions of Corneria is that if you fly through the archways at the beginning, you can make a twin blaster power-up spawn. It's a little bit trickier this time because there's robots that are walking through the area, but if you use your retro rockets, you should be able to get around them. And once you fly through the last archway, you'll notice that the twin blasters spawn underneath a moving gate, and once you see the gate rise, you can use your boosters to quickly fly through and collect the power-up. This guy on the ground that shoots plasma balls is called a mad snail, and mad snails almost always count towards your 100% score, so whenever you see those guys, make sure to take them out. We're going to fly close to this pillar and then back to the middle to get around the next two. And over on the other side of these obstacles, we'll meet a bunch of battle butterflies and other floating enemies that all count towards our score. Up ahead, there's going to be another arch that we can fly through, and if you fly through this one, it will make a silver ring spawn, and that one will give you back a good bit of health if you've taken damage. Make sure to clear out the mad snails in this area. You don't have to fly through any of those arches. You won't get anything for doing so. This mad snail drops a Nova bomb, so you definitely don't want to miss that. Just like in Path 1, you want to fly low and down at the middle of the screen whenever you see these blue pillars, and you should be able to get around them, although you may need to fly up to get through the ones at the very end. Make sure to hit the supply ring to establish a checkpoint, and if you're feeling frisky, you can get a Nova bomb over there as well. And that's going to bring us to the boss, which is our good friend the attack carrier again. The attack carrier is almost exactly the same as it was on Path 1. The only real difference is when it opens the pods on the left side, it's going to launch some missiles this time. But if you clear them with a Nova bomb, the bomb will usually get the missiles anyways, so it's almost exactly the same. Once you get down to the middle core of the carrier, you just want to keep shooting it while doing barrel rolls, and it will quickly explode. And that's it. We finished Corneria on Path 2. From here though, things will get quite a bit different. Remember that to get a 100% score on any stage, you need to clear 85% or more of the required enemies, and then if all 3 of your teammates are alive, you'll get a bonus 15% to your score, which will take you the whole way to 100. Sector X feels sort of like some type of space garbage dump, because there's just a bunch of random debris floating around in this area, and we'll need to navigate around it. The space vermin that appear at the beginning of this stage all count towards your score, so you'll want to make sure to clear those if you're interested in getting 100%. And then we'll help out Slippy by taking out the space kite that's pursuing him, and in return, he'll add a little bit of his own firepower to the mix. Out there on the horizon, you're going to start seeing all of the junk that's floating around out here in Sector X. You'll want to fly through the center of that tunnel of debris, and then look for an extra life that will appear over on the right. Remember that you can use your retros if you need to slow down. And then we're going to fly through the middle here, and then this rotating pile of space debris sort of forms a tunnel, and if you fly through the center of it, you'll be able to find a Nova bomb. On the other side of the tunnel, 4 spinners are going to pop up, and all of them count towards your score, so if you really want to get 100%, you may want to use a Nova bomb to make sure that you get them all. We can afford to miss up to 5 enemies here, so it's not completely necessary to use a bomb, but you will find several bombs in this area anyways, so you might as well get some use out of them. Make sure to pick up the shields when you fly through this area. They will deflect a few hits for you, and if you skip the supply ring here, you'll miss the checkpoint, but yep, you guessed it, it's going to make the Silver Phoenix spawn later. These hard shield enemies appear in a line, and they can only be destroyed when they turn to their vulnerable side. Unfortunately, they only turn to their vulnerable side a couple times before flying away, so you want to start with the ones at the top and work your way down, but make sure to clear all 4 of them if you're trying to get 100%. There are a lot of fast-moving objects here. You'll want to use your retro rockets to get around them, and maybe the people of Corneria should stop throwing their garbage up into space. Just an idea? And there's that silver phoenix that we made spawn by skipping the checkpoint. We'll try to grab as many of those yellow rings as we can, but we do want to clear those hard shield enemies because they count towards our 100%. The boss here's the Rock Crusher again, but do not shoot a bomb the first time it opens the pods. It tries to trick you and only opens them for a single frame. Wait until it opens them again at the bottom and then over here on the right. If you use your bomb the second 2 times, you'll be fine. Then just keep barrel rolling and shoot out the center of the boss to finish it off. It's very easy if you don't get fooled by that first trick. And that's the last time we'll have to fight the Rock Crusher. The first 2 bosses on Path 3 are completely different, unlike here on Path 2 where we had to fight slightly different versions of the same 2 bosses from Path 1. The boss of the next stage, the planet Titania, is a completely new design that we haven't seen before, and this is one of the more interesting stages in the game. You'll notice that Titania appears to be red from the outside, but whenever we get into the stage, it appears to be covered in snow. That's because Andros has deployed a weather machine here, and we'll need to take it out before we can move on. At the beginning, navigate through the icy tunnels, making sure to take out the mad shooters and the enemy stalkers that you see, and you want to head over here to the left to be able to find a Nova bomb. Over here, we can go over to the right of that panel so that we don't have to go through it, although you can shoot those panels to make them rotate, and then if you're careful, you may be able to get under them. Some of the panels hide prizes behind them, and I'll let you know where those particular panels are. Over here we're going to pass a few mad shooters, and then there's going to be 3 doors. If we go through the door in the middle, there's a twin blaster, but that's not where we actually need to go. We need to take the door on the right side. That's the one that houses the weather machine. Because we did not take that door, we have to repeat this section, and each time you repeat it, there are 2 of those mad shooter enemies that spawn, and you need to clear those to get your 100% score. However, if you keep looping over and over again, it will count as more enemies spawned, so you need to make sure that you have 85% of your actual total. If you shoot this panel, you'll be able to find a Nova bomb, although you may take damage if you hit it when it's rotating. And you want to make sure to clear these crab tanks. They don't count towards your 100% score, but if you don't knock them down, they'll start shooting you from behind after you've passed them, and you'll almost surely take damage. In this short section, we'll encounter Hover Tank 1 and 2s, as well as another tank known as a Red Eye. All of those count towards your 100% score, so make sure to clear as many as you can. Also make sure to get any of the mad shooters that you see as you fly by. I recommend doing barrel rolls whenever you're fighting the crab tanks. They shoot a lot of projectiles and a barrel roll may be able to deflect them. Don't worry about clearing the mad shooters here at the end of the stage. For whatever reason, these ones do not count towards your 100%. In fact, none of the enemies here at the very end count. Not even these battle butterflies. So don't worry about any of those enemies. You can take them out if you want to, but they do not count. And eventually, you'll come to this door. Inside, it will be time to face the next boss, Professor Hanger. Professor Hanger says bye-bye and then zips off down the tunnel, and once you emerge on the other side, he's going to start launching fish at you. You need to clear 8 of the fish, and then suddenly the boss will come back and you'll be able to actually damage him. So start shooting the boss right now. You can hit it with a Nova bomb as well to deal more damage, and it's going to be releasing fish in pairs at you, but just focus your firepower on the boss and move up and down to occasionally get out of the way of the fish. but you won't have to worry too much because if you just keep shooting this thing, it will go down quite quickly. Hopefully we were able to clear at least 85% of the required enemies, and we were credited for the entire 100%, and we earned our second continue. Not bad. Well, I guess if Sector X was Corneria's garbage dump, then Sector Y is the same thing for the planet Venom. There's a lot less garbage floating around in this area, but there seems to be a heavy amount of space radiation, causing an interesting array of creatures to be present. In this area, you'll see some orange atomic ray enemies, and whenever you shoot them, they'll turn blue, which will make them friendly. You don't want to shoot any blue atomic rays, or they will turn on you and start to attack. The atomic rays do not count towards your 100% score, but if you turn all of the orange atomic rays in this stage blue, we'll be able to make the great whale appear at the end of the stage, and it will drop a lot of good items for us. In this area, you'll encounter some amoebas, as well as an extra life. If you get stuck with an amoeba on your ship, you just want to do barrel rolls until it lets go. There are not a ton of enemies in this stage that you actually need to kill to get your 100%, but the missiles that spawn in this area definitely count, so you'll want to hit them. And if you want to get a twin blaster, make sure to shoot that purple enemy, but the item will not spawn if your blasters are already fully powered up. There are some friendly blue atomic rays in this area, so make sure not to shoot those ones, but be on the lookout for the orange ones, because remember, we want to shoot all of those to make the great whale appear. And we're going to actually go through the supply ring here to establish a checkpoint. There's no silver phoenix on this stage. And here's some of those rays. So you can see the orange ones off in the distance. We hit that blue one and it turned orange, but that does not count against you getting the great whale. It just means that that one will attack. Another thing to keep in mind in this stage is that the great whale will drop 4 Nova bombs for us, so you may want to consider using some of those bombs before you get the whale. You can only hold 5 at a time. You'll also get a twin blaster, a shield, and a silver ring from the whale, and with all of that stuff, it should make it a lot easier to face the boss, the Plasma Hydra. This is one of the trickier bosses in the game. When it's spinning around, just try to shoot the missiles that it fires at you, and don't worry about shooting at the boss. When it stops, it's going to pump 3 missiles through its arms, and once all 3 missiles have come out of the end of the arm, you want to shoot at the hand, and you'll see your shots go inside the arm and they travel down and damage the boss. If you shoot at one of the hands while there are already lumps inside of it that are coming towards you, then the hand will break off and the boss won't take any damage. So you only want to shoot it right after it launches a barrage of missiles. Eventually you'll deal enough damage that the arms will fall off, and then all we need to do is focus our attack on the core to finish it off. And that's it. We've defeated the Plasma Hydra. With Sector Y completed, it's time to move on to Venom. Just like in Path 1, Venom has 2 parts. One where we're in the outer space area around Venom, and then we'll need to go down to the planet's surface. The planet's surface stage is a lot different this time, but the part outside is similar. We'll celebrate another 100% score, and then we'll move on. The last time we reached Venom, General Pepper told us that we were attacking it head on, but this time he says that we're going to be able to sneak in the back door. You'd think that might make it a bit easier, but no. it will definitely be more challenging this time. This stage may look the same as the one from the first path, but it's actually a good bit different. Make sure to take out the space kites that you see here at the beginning. They do count towards your 100% score. And these space kites that shoot rings at you count as well. You may want to do barrel rolls when you're fighting them to try to avoid their projectiles. After protecting a squad mate, we'll encounter some of these mini smashers. You want to shoot at the homing missiles that are coming up from the planet. Those count towards your score, but definitely watch out for the smashers. They will explode into smaller pieces when you get near them, and that won't be the last time we encounter them in this stage. There's some more right here. There are 3 mini smashers that are arranged in a triangular formation, and if you fly through them, you'll be able to get a twin blaster and a nova bomb. You'll also want to clear those 3 smashers because they do go towards your 100% score. I used a bomb to make sure I could fly through and clear the enemies for the score. After we take out a few of these space vermin, the missiles will start coming up from the planet's surface, and many of the enemies here count towards 100% score, so just shoot at everything that moves. Don't worry too much about hitting your wingmate. Even if you do shoot them by accident, you won't be able to damage them. In the midst of the missiles, some hard shooters will pop up and you'll want to remove them too. And eventually you'll get to the end of it where you can take out a few space kites, and then you want to look for this orange enemy that if you can kill, it will drop a shield. If you can kill it. It's the one that's spinning around up there. There it is again, and there's the shield that it drops. So you don't want to miss that, and you want to make sure to fly through that first formation of mini smashers so that you can spawn a nova bomb. Just like in every other Venom space stage, if you don't go through the mid-stage checkpoint, you'll get the Silver Phoenix at the end. And here's the boss, the Metal Smasher. Hold L or R to turn sideways and focus your shots on the center of one of the 2 halves. Whenever you get very close to it, you're going to want to use your retro rockets to avoid the crushing attack. Make sure whenever the boss rotates and opens up again that you keep shooting the same part of the boss that you've been shooting the entire time, because you only need to destroy half of this boss to win. Once you've cleared out 1/2 of the Metal Smasher, it will release a pod and the rest of it will explode. And that's it. We've finished stage 5. Let's get our score and then head down to the planet's surface. Of course, we know that we got 100%, and that brings our total score up to 50,000 points, which is good for a 3rd continue. This time we're approaching Venom inside of a tight tunnel, and you can tilt your ship to the side and move up and down. Even if you bump into the ground or the ceiling, you won't take damage. You can also use your retro rockets to slow down. Make sure to hit all of the enemies here in the beginning. The hover tails and the wild goose enemies are both ones that count towards your 100% score. For the record, these smaller tanks are the wild goose, and this one that looks kind of like a semi-truck with no trailer, that's the hover tail. You need to shoot all of these. We're trying to get at least 26 of the 30 enemies. Over here on the right side, you'll be able to find a Nova Bomb, and you'll also be able to collect a supply ring, which will secure a checkpoint. There are a couple hover tails over on the left side there, so you may need to use a bomb to clear them, and watch out for the Wild Goose tanks that pop in from the left side. If you've taken a lot of damage in here, look for the enemies that drop yellow healing rings whenever they die. If you fly through those rings, you'll restore some of your health. Whenever you hear the air bikers approaching, You want to let them get onto the screen, then use your retro rockets so you can slow down, and you'll be able to get behind them where you can shoot them and take them out. Stay tilted to the side so that you don't bump into any of the obstacles here, and that will bring us to the boss, the Galactic Rider. Stay on the right side tilted to the left as the boss appears, and once it gets down in front of you, start firing at the hatch on the back, because as soon as it opens up, you want to damage the boss and then launch a bomb at it. When it gets close, fly to the upper left corner, and then when it starts swinging back over to the left, use your retro rockets as you move to the right. This should allow you to avoid the boss, especially if you tilt to the side as it moves past you. As soon as it opens the door again, fire at it as many times as you can, and you should be able to finish it off. And that brings us once again to Andross. The fight against Andross is similar to the first path, except this time the cube inside has a lot more health, so we need to deal a lot more damage to it, or else we'll have to fight the face a second time. As long as you have at least one bomb available, I have a pretty good technique for clearing the cube in a single cycle, but be ready to defeat the face 2 times just in case. Carefully make your way around the obstacles here. There's a twin blaster you can pick up, and there's a bomb earlier in the tunnel. And here's the end. Just like the first time we fought this boss, we're going to start in the upper right corner, tilted to the left, and we're going to aim our shots at the inner part of the right eye, but we're going to be a bit more conservative this time and move back and forth, shooting at each eye a little more evenly so that we can get Andross to shoot the tiles away from us. If we have to fight the face twice, we want to make sure that we have health remaining, so we're just trying to avoid as much damage as possible. Whenever Andross sucks in tiles, you won't be able to be damaged, but you do need to avoid them when he spits them out. Whenever we're able to destroy one of the eyes, we can focus our firepower on the other one. So we got rid of the eye on the right, and then we were able to move over to the left. And once the cube is revealed, you want to launch your bomb whenever the cube touches the right side of the screen and bounces off. If you time it perfectly, you'll be able to rapidly shoot at the cube with your blasters, and the bomb will finish the job. If you don't manage to clear the cube in the first cycle, you just have to defeat the face again, so just use the same strategy a second time, and you should be able to clear the cube when it comes back around. And that's it! We've done it again! We've beaten StarFox on the medium difficulty path. All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. This part of the ending is completely identical to the ending that we saw at the end of the first path. Our ships take a few victory laps around Venom, and then we will review our final score. Once again, this is the first time that we'll get to see if we actually got 100% on stage 6. So we know we got 100% on the first 5 stages, but did we get the last one? Of course we did. Getting all 100% scores on this path is not too difficult, but getting all 100% scores on the final most difficult path is quite challenging, and that's what we're going to have to do next.
Come in, Cornelia.
This is Corneria, Pepper speaking. Congratulations on a job well done.
Roger. I'm heading back to Corneria.
And now it's time once again to take a look at all of the game's bosses. The first two bosses are going to look familiar because these are the same ones that we fought at the end of the first two stages in the first path. Of course, we know those bosses are a little bit different the second time around, but whenever we get to the third path, all of the bosses are going to be new. There's even a new form for the final boss. I would say that Professor Hanger is one of my favorite bosses in the game. He's not that difficult to defeat, but I really like the setting where you fight him. The Plasma Hydra is probably the most difficult boss on this path. If you don't know what you're doing, you can waste a lot of time shooting at the arms whenever there are rockets inside of them, and that's something you definitely don't want to do. The Metal Smasher is one of the easier Venom bosses, and it's also the one that seems to have the least in common with the second form that you fight on the surface of the planet. Like, I know that this Galactic Rider boss emerged from that Metal Crusher thing, but it doesn't feel very connected to it. Very, very different. And then, of course, we have Andros once again. He's a little more difficult this time, but mostly the same. We still have one more path to complete, and that path is not only the most different of the three, but it also contains a very interesting bonus stage that has its own special ending associated with it. So we're going to be doing all of that this time around. We'll take a look at our total score at the end with a nice average of 100%, and then we'll be back to the title screen for one more run. I'm choosing Control Scheme A just because it's the one I'm the most comfortable with, and we're going to choose Path 3, which is the one on the right side. And if you're good at counting, you'll notice that there are 7 stages to complete this time instead of just 6. General Pepper says that this path is a good choice to take Venom by surprise, but I don't think they're actually going to be very surprised because this will be the most resistance we've faced thus far. For one last time, our squadron of R-Wings will launch from the base on Corneria, and this time the sky is a burnt orange sunset. Fa-blamma blam blam blamma. Well, now we know what the fox says. That's one mystery solved. As we get started here on Corneria, just like in all of the other Cornerias, we want to look for archways to fly through so that we can make a twin blaster power-up spawn. This time, some of the arches are on an angle, so don't be afraid to use your retro rockets if you need to slow down to get through them. We'll catch this one on the side, and then we'll fly through this one in the middle, and that will make a twin blaster appear on the left side. If you were unable to fly through all of the arches, you can still get a Nova Bomb over on the right, but there are actually a lot of Nova Bombs to find here on Corneria 3, so you definitely would rather get the twin blaster. There are actually so many Nova Bombs here that even after skipping that first one, we will still find one more than we'll be able to carry. The blue pillars are a little bit tougher this time around. I actually recommend flying higher on the screen and just try to get around them as they fall. Carefully make your way around these pillars. You want to try to stay towards the middle. And it seems that one of our friends has gotten into trouble again, but we were able to quickly rescue him. Over here, there's a large robot which does not count towards your 100% score, but all of these enemies down here on the ground definitely do count towards your score. And if you kill that mad snail, it will spawn a Nova Bomb. So that brings our Nova Bomb total up to 4 right now, and if we tilt our ship sideways, we can fly through a narrow opening and pick up our 5th bomb. Falco says the attack carrier will be mine, but oh Falco, there's no attack carrier this time. This time we're going to fight something much, much worse. Take the left path there so that you can secure a checkpoint, and you don't have to kill any of these robots for your score, so just shoot whichever ones are in your way. If you hold R and fly hard to the right here, you can just get around all of this nonsense. And that's going to bring us to the boss. It is definitely not the attack carrier. This is the Destructor. This boss features 3 turrets that shoot at you. Those are the part that you actually need to get rid of, but it also has 3 shields that float above the turrets, and you can only damage those shields when they tilt towards you. If you kill one of the turrets and you don't kill the shield above it, whenever the shields move down over the turret, it will revive it and it will come back. Whenever you're down to just turrets left, they'll start turning around backwards and you won't be able to shoot them when they're not facing towards you. I recommend that you use a bomb or 2 to fight this thing, but you do want to conserve some of your bombs because they are going to be very valuable moving forward. Because getting 100% on this first level is not that difficult, but getting 100% on the Path 3 Asteroid Belt can be very difficult, and it's especially hard to do without a bunch of bombs. But let's put our pursuit of a perfect 100% score on pause for a moment, because the Path 3 Asteroid Belt contains a secret stage, and once we go in there, it's going to render whatever percent we have irrelevant. The secret stage here is called Out of This Dimension, and to make it appear, we are looking for the second very large asteroid that spawns. The first very large asteroid will spawn on the left, and the second one is going to spawn on the right. The one that spawns on the right is the one we're looking for. So there's the first one on the left, and there it is. This is the giant asteroid we're looking for. Just keep shooting at this thing, and eventually it will explode and release an egg. A bird will hatch from that egg, and then pay attention to the bird because you want to fly directly into it. And if you're able to, you will see this trippy sequence, and you'll be taken to a hidden level that's outside of the map. It seems that General Pepper is unable to reach our squadron, and if you go to the Out of This Dimension secret stage, there is no turning back. This is a one-way trip. Once you get into this stage, you will see all sorts of weirdness. There are strange man-in-the-moon shapes in the background. Everything seems to be melting like it's some kind of Salvador Dali painting. And there are sheets of paper floating through the area that, if not shot quickly enough, will fold into origami paper planes which will fly and attack you. So yeah, there is a lot going on in here. Look for the pieces of paper and shoot any that you see. If you see some objects that you need to fly around, this area is very wide open, so you should be able to get around them quite easily. You'll notice that we don't have to get anywhere near that rotating pole. Over here, there's more sheets of paper, and some of the pieces of paper that you shoot will split into more sheets of paper. So yeah, just keep clearing everything that you see. The game does not give you a percentage at the end of this stage, so don't worry about clearing all of the enemies. Just worry about clearing them so that they don't kill you. And we'll just keep moving closer and closer and closer to the melting faces in the background. as we shoot our way through origami nonsense. Do not worry about saving your bombs. I don't think they're super effective against the paper planes that we're fighting here, but they don't do anything against the boss of this stage, so there is no reason to save them. So just bomb things at your heart's content, and try to avoid the enemies if you're unable to kill them before they're completely folded. When it seems like the planes stop coming, that's your signal that the boss is about to arrive. And this is quite the boss. It's a giant slot machine. Whenever you shoot the handle on the right side, the reels will start spinning, and the only way to win this battle is to get 3 sevens. 3 of anything else will not win. If you get any Andros heads, even 1, the slot machine will launch rockets at you, but these are easy to avoid. Just fly hard left and down, and eventually they'll stop firing. Now you'll notice that underneath the reels there are some triangles, and occasionally some of those triangles will flash. If you shoot one of the flashing triangles, you'll freeze that reel. You only want to freeze 7s. If you get any cherries and you don't get an Andros head, the machine will release coins, and if you collect those coins, you'll get some health back. You'll also get coins if you get 3 of any shape other than an Andros head or a 7. You'll actually get coins for 777s as well, but it won't really matter because you'll be winning the battle at that point. So we definitely don't want to freeze that Andros head, and we're just looking for 7s. Now there's a 7 that we can potentially freeze. We got some cherries, so we're going to get the coins. And we don't have the option to freeze the 7 anymore, so we just have to spin the reels again. If you are extremely unlucky, this battle can go on forever, so make sure that you're only freezing 7s. You may want to hold L or R whenever you're shooting at the freeze buttons to make sure that you don't accidentally shoot one of the other buttons. So we'll shoot this one over here on the left and we'll spin again. That will freeze the 7 and maybe we'll get 2 7s here. Come on, big money, big money. There's 1. And a star. But we have the opportunity to freeze both 7s, so now we actually have a decent chance of winning. Of course, we might get anything other than a 7 and... oh no, it is the 7. And that's it. Okay. If you get all 7s, the machine will dispense a ton of coins, and then it will explode. And that's it. We've done it. We've beaten out of this dimension. All we can do now is no, we can actually do a lot more than sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. Because in this game, you can participate in the ending. You can't really do too much. You can shoot at stuff, but it doesn't explode or get destroyed or anything. But just the fact that you can actually still play while the credits are rolling is quite unique. For modern video games, there are a lot of final credit rolls that allow the player to participate, but for a game that came out back in the early 90s, this is extremely uncommon. We still have a bunch of stuff that we need to do over on the third path, so we'll get back to that shortly. But technically, this is beating the game, so if you want to tell your friends that you can beat StarFox in under 10 minutes, you could just show them this. Of course, if you tried to do that, you'd probably get very unlucky with the slot machine and it would take you an hour, but I guess that's just the risk that you take. So you may be wondering, what's the point of all this? Why did the developers make it so that the player was still in control during the credits? Well, you'll see here in just a moment, because whenever these credits wrap up, there's sort of a little mini game at the very end. Assisted by Argonaut Software as the final credit, So as soon as this flies away, we will see the end, but you'll notice that the letters are all turned around, so you have to keep shooting them until they turn orange. This is easier said than done because there are enemies here, and they can crash into or shoot the letters that you've already flipped over and reset them to blue or gray. Once you have a lot of the letters turned orange, you may want to hold L or R so that you can turn your ship sideways, and that will make you more precise. You don't want to accidentally shoot a letter you've already put in the correct position. And we just have to get this second E, and there it is, we did it. We've cleared the end. But like I said before, there's no real end to this, and there's no going back. So this is actually a bad ending for the heroes, because you know Andros wins if Fox is trapped out of this dimension. So let's go back to the Path 3 asteroid belt and see if we can finish it with a 100% score. To that end, I like to start off the stage with a Nova Bomb, not because those enemies you could see on the screen were ones that we needed to kill, but because there are two other enemies that appear on the periphery of the screen that are very hard to hit without a bomb. There are a lot of enemies we need to hit here in the asteroid belt, including some of the orange asteroids themselves, so try to shoot at everything you can see. Don't worry about hitting the large asteroid that summons the bird. We don't need to do that. We're just going to pass on by. There's going to be a set of asteroids that appear in a triangular formation, and those asteroids themselves actually count towards your score, as does a lot of other things on the screen, but if you fly right through them, you'll find a Nova Bomb. Beyond that, you'll find the purple enemy that spawns a twin blaster when you kill it, so make sure to take that guy out. The enemies that look like pointy road cones are called metallic pipers, and they send out a ton of plasma. If you want to take a risk, you can skip over the supply ring that provides a midway checkpoint, and if you do, you'll summon the Silver Phoenix at the end of the stage. Make sure whenever you shoot these centipedes that you clear all of the pieces that break off, because those are all worth points towards your 100%. And here's another extra life. Shoot those purple diamonds 3 times to make a ship appear between them, and then fly right through it to collect it. The hide gunners that attach to the asteroids are extremely obnoxious. After you shoot them, be sure to avoid an asteroid that they'll send your way. Does it feel like the laughing asteroids in this area move towards you? I'm not sure that they actually move towards you, but you want to try to avoid them anyways. Keep shooting the hide gunners and watch out for the asteroids they toss in your direction, and generally do your best to avoid hitting any of the objects in this area. Here's that Silver Phoenix that we summoned by skipping the supply ring, and here's the boss, the Blade Barrier. Don't shoot the Blade Barrier when it's spinning. It will reflect your shots back at you. You need to shoot the pods that line the side of the barrier whenever it stops. It's possible to kill 2 in one cycle, but it's not easy to do that. Once it starts spinning again, it'll send a net at you. You want to move over to one of the sides when it starts spinning, and as soon as you see the net, quickly fly over to the opposite side. If you get caught in the net, rapidly do a barrel roll so that you can avoid getting rammed by the boss. It's obviously better to just avoid the net entirely, but if you make a mistake, that's how you get out of it. Whenever you destroy the 6th and final pod, the whole thing will explode, and you don't want to be anywhere near the boss when this happens, so quickly fly to the upper right corner to avoid taking damage. And that's it. We've beaten Asteroid Belt 2. Let's see if we manage to get 100%. This is one of the hardest stages in this set to get it on. And we'll see here, you can only miss 10 enemies if you don't die. We definitely got it this time, so we're up to 20,000 points. And we're moving on to Stage 3, Fortuna. I have very bad news for anyone trying to get 100%. If you're playing on an older copy of the game, so one of the earlier printings, it is nearly impossible to get 100% on the planet Fortuna. Later printings of the game are patched to make it so that you can get 100%, and we're playing on one of those versions right now. It may be possible to do if you keep dying after the last checkpoint and killing enemies that count, but I was unable to make it happen. The key enemies in this part of the stage are the bee fighters, but those are enemies that you would want to kill anyways, because they will definitely chase you if you don't. There are also some mad snails, so be on the lookout for those as well. There's a few mad snails over here, and one of them will drop a Nova bomb when killed, so you definitely want to get credit for that. This is the one that drops the bomb. We'll use our retro rockets to make sure that we're able to pick it up, and then we'll continue through this section that ends with a supply ring and brings us to the water area. Some of the space sardines that hop out of the water here count towards your total, so do your best to shoot all of those. There are going to be some birds here, and these birds do not count towards your total. However, I think it may be the birds that are causing the problem in the earlier version, because the way they die, they just drop into the water, and the game may not be giving you credit for them. I'm very confident that the birds do not count towards 100% in the newer version, so I assume that's what they fixed. Make sure to grab the shields before this section that has a bunch of hydras which pop out of the water. These hydras do not count towards your 100% score, but they are extremely dangerous, so shoot any of the hydra heads that you can and try to move out of the way of their fireballs. You can't avoid the fireballs by barrel rolling. There's a 1-up you can get towards the middle, but it's kind of risky to collect. You may end up colliding with the Hydra behind it. We'll take care of Slippy here to make sure he doesn't take any damage. And we're going to keep trying to get rid of these space sardines, but I don't think any of these ones count towards our 100% score. I missed the supply ring here because I wanted to be all the way on the left side so that we could fly through that archway, which makes a Nova bomb appear. You may prefer to go through the supply ring, but it's hard to do both, and I felt like the bomb was more important. There's also a twin blasters that you can find here near the end, and once we get past these flowers that are sprouting out of the ground, it'll be time to face the boss, the Monarch Dodora. We're going to approach this boss from behind, and as soon as the battle begins, it moves towards you. So if you want to avoid it, you want to fly all the way to the right and then use your retro rockets as you fly back to the left. When you're behind the boss, you need to shoot at the tail, and when the boss is coming towards you, you need to shoot at the heads, but eventually you'll shoot either of them enough times so that you'll be able to damage the body. As soon as you can damage the body, try to score a direct hit on it with a Nova bomb, and that will deal massive damage. Then it will only take a few more shots to finish this thing off. And that's it. We've completed Stage 3. Let's see if we did it with a 100% score. And there it is. We've reached 30,000 points, which is good for a second continue. That's going to bring us to Sector Z, the last of the lettered sectors, and this appears to be a garbage dump for 2 planets, so there is a ton of debris floating around in this one. The thing about Sector Z is a lot of the obstacles that we're going to encounter are these transparent wireframe objects, and the fact that they're transparent makes it a little bit harder to navigate around them. They're just harder to see. If we fly through this square of transparent blocks, we'll make a Nova Bomb spawn on the other side. There's some solid objects here, so, try to avoid those as well. But it's those transparent ones that you really gotta look out for. Over on the right side here, we're going to be able to find a twin blaster power-up. So that will be good if you've lost a life, or perhaps if you've taken wing damage. You'll want to hold L or R when you pass through some of these tight, narrow passages, and try to collect that silver ring if you need to restore some of your health. The objects are solid over in this area, and you want to shoot the enemies if you're trying to get a 100% score. Oh, no, there's the transparent objects again, so we certainly aren't free of those even in this space. Take out the Cat's Rock enemy over here on the left, and there's another one on the right. After we pass through that square, we'll make a silver ring appear, so if you need to get some health back, you can fly through it. And then we're going to continue through this area where we'll find a shield power-up, and that one could certainly help out. Fly through the middle of these large rectangles, and you'll find a supply ring that gives us a checkpoint. And then there are just so many transparent objects here. If you fly hard to the left or the right and hold L or R as you do so, you'll be able to avoid all of those objects, but you have to watch out for the Cat's Rock enemies that fly through that area and shoot plasma balls. They're over on the edges, not in the middle. Shoot the spinners that appear here quickly. All 3 of them add towards your 100% score. And when you get to this part, there's still another Nova Bomb that we can find, but we are very close to the boss. And the boss is going to be one that will look familiar to you, but it's much more difficult this time. In this short tunnel, avoid the obstacles and shoot the doorways. Also make sure to shoot the enemies because they all count towards your 100% score. We'll let that one just fly over, and we'll turn to the side to go through there. There's a few more doors to shoot through, and we'll try to collect some of those yellow rings to restore some health, and then we'll get down to the bottom to go underneath that moving bar. After shooting through a series of doors, that will bring us to the boss, Atomic Base 2. Hold L and fly to the left while shooting, and as soon as you take out the first pod, use your retro rockets and keep firing to clear the other 2. You need to be careful that you don't shoot any of the pods that you've already cleared, or it will reattach to the wall, and you'll have to shoot that pod again. Even if the middle was already open, it would close if you hit one of those pods, so be very careful where you aim once you open it up. If you can manage to take out Atomic Base 2, we'll be on to stage number 5, and that stage is the planet Macbeth. This will be another planetary world, and unlike Titania, which was very cold, and Fortuna, which was very fertile, Macbeth is hot and fiery. It's filled with volcanoes and extremely hostile. We'll be flying through the planet's hollow interior as we make our way towards the core.
Good luck.
Well, one good thing about Macbeth is that there's a Nova Bomb right here at the very beginning. so make sure to grab that. And as you're flying through the orange caverns here, eventually you'll come to a fork in the road. At that point, you want to go to the left. We're not quite there yet. It's up here where you see this large rock. So head over here on the left side, and that will make another Nova Bomb appear. We're certainly going to be happy to have those. Most of the enemies that you see here on Macbeth do count towards your 100% total, especially these mad shooters, which you'll find all over the place. Try to shoot as many of them as you can. You'll only be able to miss 6 enemies and still make 100% if your team is fully intact. Stay low as we fly through this area that has a lot of objects hanging from the ceiling, and as soon as we head past this next object coming up, we're going to be able to find a twin blaster power-up, so use your retros if you need to slow down to pick it up. The volcanoes that hang from the ceiling here rain rocks down on you, so don't go underneath them. And you'll see a shield power-up here close to a large volcano on the ground. Use your boosters to quickly collect it. The mad snails that are on the ground do not count towards your 100% score, but they can be dangerous, so you may want to get rid of them anyways. We'll fly through a supply ring to establish a checkpoint, and you just want to stay towards the center of the screen here and keep shooting to take out these enemies. Hit the red eye tanks that are attached to the ceiling, and we'll help out Falco here. And he says we should mind our own business, but we do want to keep our team together. There are just so many mad shooters in this area, and they all count towards your 100% score. So keep doing barrel rolls as you shoot as many of them as you can. Watch out for the volcano near the end here, and you may want to use a few bombs if you have to, so you can hit as many mad shooters as possible. The boss here is the spinning core, and it appears in a cloud of smoke. You can shoot through the smoke, and you should do so because you need to clear all 4 fins on the side of the boss before it will transform into this monstrosity, which you just want to get over to the left at first, and eventually it will become vulnerable. Keep doing barrel rolls and shoot at the sharp point at the bottom of the boss, and eventually you should be able to defeat it. Don't get hit by the balls that it tosses your way. You do need to move out of the way of those, but you should be able to avoid most of the damage by doing barrel rolls. If you've managed to get all 100% scores up to this point, you'll earn your 3rd and final continue for this particular path, but we still have 2 more stages to go. The next stage is the most difficult Venom space in the entire game, and this stage may have the most difficult boss in the entire game, so be ready for that. This time, General Pepper says that it's our fate to destroy Andross. Thanks for the vote of confidence, buddy.
Good luck.
Right from the very start, we're attacked by super missiles, and those definitely count towards your 100% total, so make sure to hit all of them. After that, we're going to be attacked by an array of different enemies, including the homing missiles that come up from the planet, and these blue spacecraft, which are called Zots. Make sure you're clearing all of the Zots. Those guys definitely count. And we're just going to keep fending off enemies as we go through here. There's a bunch of these orange space kites, but none of those actually count towards your enemy total, so you don't really have to worry about them. Over here we have an enemy chasing Falco, and surprisingly, the enemy that was chasing him does not count towards your 100% total, but we do want to keep Falco safe. Coming up soon, you're going to see a circle of Cat's Rock enemies surrounding a Nova Bomb. All of those enemies count towards your 100% total, so you may want to use a bomb to clear them, and if you fly through the middle of the circle, a shield and a twin blaster will spawn. We're going to skip the supply ring here, and I bet you can guess why. Yep, that's right. It's because that's how you make a silver phoenix spawn at the end of the stage. I had mentioned before that the boss of this stage is difficult, and the key to defeating this boss is bringing as many bombs as you can. We only have 2 right now, so it's going to be tough, but if we had a full set of 5 bombs, this boss would be a whole lot easier. Unfortunately, there's not a whole bunch of bombs to find here in this stage, so your best bet at bringing a bunch of them to the end is to conserve them from before. So just do your best to hold on to your bombs if you're worried about the boss, and clear as many enemies as you can. None of the enemies from this point onward count towards your 100% score, and you'll know it's time to face the boss when you suddenly enter third-person mode. This boss is called the Great Commander, and it starts out by doing this whole song and dance routine where it flies around in a circle a few times, and it cannot be damaged while it's doing this. So just try to avoid this thing until it finally forms into one unit, like that. We're going to automatically start flying towards the boss, and these small pods on the top of it will occasionally open up. There are 6 of them total. After we finish flying past the boss, we'll double back and start flying past it again. If you notice that at least 2 of the pods on top of the boss are open, that could be a good opportunity to use a bomb. If you run out of bombs, you are going to have to shoot the remaining pods with your guns, and a good way to do that is to turn sideways by holding L or R, so you can focus your shots in a tighter area. You can see why I recommended bringing as many bombs as possible to this fight, because it is hard to hit the boss with your guns, but it's not that hard to hit it with bombs, and if you bring enough bombs, you may be able to finish this one very quickly. On the other hand, if you come to this fight with no bombs, you're going to have a bad time. Do your best and try to shoot the pods with your guns, but at least if you die, you'll respawn with 3 bombs in your inventory. And now we have a 60,000 point score, which is going to bring us to stage 7 with a currently perfect record. And this is it, the final stage of the hardest path. At the beginning, turn to the side and fly to the top middle of the screen to avoid these moving pillars. Just make sure to fly out of the way of the one at the very end, because it doesn't move. Use your boosters to grab this shield, then stay over here on the left side where there are not very many panels that you have to avoid. And here we have the red pillars again. These are very similar to the ones that we faced in the first path. Hold L or R to turn sideways and do your best to avoid them. If you have your powered up guns, you can shoot through some of the pillars, but avoiding them is much safer. The enemy that was chasing Peppy does not count towards your 100% score, but the Hover Tank 2, the Red Eye, and the other battle butterflies in this area do count. Over here we have the walls with the arrows on them again, but this time there's a bit of a twist. Whenever you see these blue ones, they are constantly changing, so when you see those, if your ship is near the flat side of the arrow, you want to use your boosters to quickly zip past the wall so you don't get damaged. We'll fly through this supply ring and we'll take out an enemy so that Falco stays alive. He's taken a little bit of a beating this time. Stay over here on this right side and fly through these arches. Then we're going to fly through another arch over here on the left, and that's going to make a Nova bomb spawn. You'll probably want an extra bomb, so I do recommend flying through those arches. Make sure to hit all of the mad shooters and the enemy stalkers in this area. All of them count towards your score. It looks like I may have missed one enemy here, but you are allowed to miss up to 3 in this stage. We'll keep Peppy alive and quickly fly through that matrix of walls. And then there's 3 more battle butterflies and 2 more enemy stalkers over here. All of them count towards your score. I have very good news. The Great Commander is a lot easier this time. It's not even close to as frustrating as it was out in space. At the beginning of this fight, there's going to be an exhaust port at the bottom of the boss that appears where I'm shooting right now, and that's its weak point. It opens and closes, so you just want to move along with it and keep shooting so that you're dealing damage to the boss. The boss throws iron balls at you, and you're not able to use your barrel rolls to avoid those, so you want to do your best to fly out of the way of any iron balls that you see. Whenever the boss comes to its second health bar, you need to kill the head of the boss, that's the only part that takes damage, while avoiding the rotating lower section. You may want to use a bomb or 2 here, that's okay. We will find another one on the way to Andros. And that's it. We've defeated the Great Commander for the last time, and it's time to move on to the final battle. As we approach Andros this time, he makes a comment about Fox's father. And according to the lore of the game, Fox's father was testing a weapon of mass destruction, a gravity bomb, which is essentially a space nuke, and its explosion is the reason why the black hole exists. Andros had designed that weapon, so it's sort of his fault that Fox's father was killed. I guess those two have some unfinished business, but we're about to settle that right now. We fought the telekinetic face of Andros 2 times now, but this time it's going to be a little bit different. The core has even more health this time, so it is very, very difficult to kill it in a single cycle. It is possible, but it's super tough. So you want to sort of assume that you're going to need to fight this thing multiple times, but the second time we fight it, it's going to be a little bit different. Keep moving back and forth so that the tiles don't hit you, and just do as much damage to the eyes as you can. We want to stay over here on the left because we've already cleared the left eye, and as soon as the right eye becomes vulnerable, we can fly over there and shoot it out. As soon as this thing bounces off the wall, we're going to use the Nova Bomb, and we're going to shoot it as quickly as possible. But it looks like we did not kill the cube, so here is the second form of the boss. The boss adds plasma balls to its repertoire this time, so you want to keep barrel rolling as you're shooting the eyes, and you do want to move back and forth from eye to eye so that it won't be able to focus the tiles on you as well. Remember, it tries to aim the tiles in your general direction, so if you keep moving from left to right, you'll be able to lead the tiles away from yourself. And this time we were able to deal enough damage to destroy the cube, but if you don't, you will have to fight that evil face again. And that's it. We've done it again. We've beaten StarFox on the most difficult path. All we can do now is sit back, relax, and enjoy the cheesy ending. We've certainly seen this part of the ending before, but beating the game on this path is very difficult, so it feels that much better when we see it on path number 3. So for one last time, we'll enjoy a few victory laps around Venom as our final scores are tallied up. There are 7 stages this time, So our maximum possible score is 70,000 points this time, not 60,000. 70,000 points is so many that it's going to be hard to fit them all on the screen. But the game does just fine. We already know that we had a perfect score for the first 6 stages. We just want to confirm that we were able to do it on the last one. And there it is. A perfect 70,000. Even finishing the third path is difficult enough, but finishing it with an average score of 100% is even more challenging. But I hope that with the help of this video, more people will be able to do it.
Come in, Cornelia.
This is Corneria, Pepper speaking. Congratulations on a job well done.
Roger. I'm heading back to Corneria.
And with that, our R-Wing fighters zip off into the distance for the last time. And here we see all of the bosses. Because we had some new ones this time, we'll get some new boss stats, like this one for the Destructor. As a kid, I played this game all the time, and while I could finish the first 2 paths pretty consistently, I could never quite beat that third one. The Great Commander and the Wolf Head at the very end took me out several times, and it was nice to go back to this game as an adult and finally conquer it. Honestly, the rest of this path isn't that difficult, but the final 2 stages are pretty tough, so if you're able to beat them, you should consider yourself a StarFox expert. At least StarFox for the Super Nintendo. The Atomic Base is the only repeat boss on this path, but it is so much more difficult than the Atomic Base on Path 1 that it feels quite a bit different. The spinning core seems surprisingly easy for how deep it is into the game, and the Great Commander is extremely frustrating. I have no idea why the developers decided to make the hitboxes on the pods you need to shoot so small, but if you don't have bombs, that one is a major problem. I like this second boss design a lot more. The hitbox on the exhaust port you need to shoot opens and closes, but at least it's a reasonable size, so whenever it is open, you can actually hit it. I kinda wish they would show the wolf head here at the end of Path 3 instead of the normal Andros face. I'd just like to see if it had some different stats. And that's it. Roll the credits. And this time we're going to actually let the credits roll, but sadly we won't be able to shoot at them. It is very hard for me to explain how exciting this game was back in 1993. Back in the early 90s, this game was clearly the future. It just looked so cutting edge. We all knew that the graphics were eventually going to get better, and you could just imagine what the next generation of video games were going to look like. And whenever we did get the Nintendo 64 and the first PlayStation, yeah, the graphics did look a lot like StarFox, just with some minor upgrades. Several years later, we would get games like Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Final Fantasy VII. These games use early 3D graphics, but they're all running on much more powerful systems. StarFox is running on the old 16-bit Super Nintendo, a system that wasn't really built with 3D graphics in mind. Sure, there was the Mode 7 effect that was used to make games like F-Zero or Pilot Wings possible, but when the engineers were designing the Super Nintendo hardware, they were thinking about games like Super Mario World or The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. these were going to be top-notch two-dimensional games, not fully 3D ones like StarFox. Building expensive chips into each cartridge is a risky strategy, but during the console wars of the 1990s, Nintendo was willing to take those kinds of risks. It's just like the Fab Four once said, over 20 years ago today, General Pepper had a game to play. It's been going in and out of style, but it's guaranteed to raise a smile. Well, I hope this video was able to help you finally beat StarFox, returning peace to the Lylat system. If it did, make sure to give it a like, and make sure to subscribe for more videos. Because there will always be more mad space scientists to stop, and that's why we'll be back again next week with another video game you can beat. Thanks for watching.